For me, he looked like he was feeling sorry for himself.
But he just hung in there, man, and that is a quality that you need at that higher level.
Is it a fair observation for me to make that if Justis Huni hit a little bit harder, that Fabio might have found himself in a greater degree of difficulty than he did on Saturday night?
I think it was too easy for him at a point.
I went to the corner and just said to him just before that round, just throw the right hand, forget the jab. I mean, if he catches anybody, he'll knock him over. This division is on fire at the moment. There's so many exciting fights to be made, and he's an exciting fighter, and he's in the mix.
Moses Itauma is something special, and I think he wins and wins quite comfortably.
And I think it could be early as well.
I think it's good night, Mr. Whyte. If he blasts him out, the mythology around Moses just gets bigger and wider. You mentioned Ben Whittaker in that conversation.
I want that fight. I don't really like him, to be honest. Daniela is my girlfriend, and they told her to shut up twice. Told her to shut up.
Oh,
yeah.
Personal level.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 124 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. Joining us today is two-weight world champion and sports broadcaster Kyle Frampton. Nice to see you.
How you doing, boys?
All good,
I
mate.
saw you on Saturday.
Yeah.
I waved at you. You blanked me.
Oh,
even Barry
sorry.
Hearn's son come and said hello to me.
I didn't even, sorry, Simon. If I'd seen you, I would have, of course.
I thought you told me you blanked him.
No, I didn't.
Right, boys, listen, before we get into the conversation amongst ourselves, we're joined by boxing promoter extraordinaire, Frank Warren. Morning, afternoon, Frank. Sorry, mate.
Hey, chaps, how are you?
All good, Frank.
Good. Recovered from the cold weather up in Portman Road that you were pissing and complaining about on Saturday night?
And the rain, but
And the
everybody
rain.
enjoyed themselves.
Absolutely.
It was, and they all got into the spirit of things, and we had it was a good card, and it was certainly I thought it was a great main event, very eventful and exciting fight, dramatic.
Yeah. What did you mean? Let's get into that. I mean, it was, Frank, it was a great event. I really enjoyed it. I sat next to Mark Ashton, the chairman of Ipswich, so I think he was bloody relieved that Fabio had won in the end because ultimately he's a hometown boy. But what did you make of the overall fight against Justis? What was your overall views of it all?
I think it actually panned out how both of them said it would pan out at the press conference. You know, Justin said he was going to, use his boxing ability, which he did, and he boxed extremely well. And I've got to just, say that he's a really nice guy as well, lovely guy. He boxed really well. He had end of the first round, he got clipped by Fabio, and Fabio had a really good third round. But other than that, I think he won most of those rounds. But
Were you
Fabio,
getting worried, Frank? Because I saw you jump up around about the 8th round and started barking instructions about throw the right hand and you've got to get him out of there.
Well, I could see that for me, what I was watching is that, he's there. You could see that that Huni could be caught with a right hand. That's how I see it. And he just, he wasn't letting him go. And his jab wasn't so good. He was pouring at times with his jab rather than being emphatic and getting his distance. But as he said, Fabio at the press conference, I only need a split second and I can change a fight round. And that's exactly what he did. I ran up, I was a couple of times went to the corner, and I know I shouldn't do that, but I'll get carried away.
Yep.
And I went to the corner and just said to him just before that round, just throw the right hand, forget the jab, just lead with the right hand. You're behind, you can't win the fight on points. If it goes any further, he's won the fight. You've got to knock him over. And thankfully, that's what he did. But it was, and I'm sitting in between his two promoters, Eddie and
Spencer Brown.
Spencer.
Yeah, I saw you, yeah.
And it was funny, all the way through it, they were saying, oh, he's winning, he's doing this. And I said, yeah, he is winning. But, sometimes you see fights where what you think's going to happen is not happening. It just drifts on and it becomes repetitive. And, Huni boxed extremely well. He's a very good boxer. Thankfully, he's not as big as puncher as he'd probably like to be, but he's a very good boxer. But Fabio done well, and you look at his background. What was it, four of those nonsense fights, what they call them, white collar fights or whatever they call them, and just was it 20 fights as a pro? I mean, it's amazing what he's done and where he's got to. And it's amazing, just after 20 fights that he's selling 22,000 tickets in a football stadium.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. Someone else who spoke about it on the weekend was Ben Davison. Let's have a listen to what Ben had to say about the fight.
Could he have been better in moments? Of course. But at the end of the day, he managed to capitalise on one of the situations he was working on. And that's all it takes. He's a bit like Deontay Wilder. That's how I'd say it. And you have to.
You can equalise a fight in any moment.
You have to game plan towards that and be realistic with that. We're not going to game plan for him to bank rounds and win moment to moment with Justis Huni. It wasn't going to happen. I don't think he got to a point where I thought, oh, I have to pull him out here. There was still moments where there was close calls with situations and shots that Fabio was throwing, and eventually he found it, which, you know, obviously, again, we wasn't expecting to bank rounds, but eventually got there.
Frank, I think that Fabio showed incredible character in there, didn't he? It's not easy for a fighter when you're losing round after round, and it was slowly becoming tougher for him. And I think I said it on the broadcast, actually. I go, there's times there where he had to dig really deep and ask himself questions, but he's one of those rare breed that can stick in there and keep faith. And I think that's a difficult guy to beat.
But he's gritty, he's tough. He's got a natural fighting instinct and ability, and he's got tremendous power. I mean, if he catches anybody, he'll knock them over, and he's got great power. And as I said, the press conference, both what they said at that press conference is how it panned out for them. You know, he was going to rely on his boxing ability, which he did, and was boxing extremely well, Justis, and he was going to rely on finding that split second, and he found that split second and caught him with a tremendous shot. I mean, that was a bloody good shot he caught him with.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
and you've got to, really, and he's a lovely fellow. He's a great ambassador for our sport. He talks well.
He does.
He's a really nice guy, and I was thrilled for him.
He does. He's very articulate, and his work very well put together. But the observation that Ben was making, comparing him to Deontay Wilder, does that not cause an element of concern? Because we saw aspects of Justis Huni, who was technically better than Fabio, and at times made it very difficult for Fabio. Is it not slightly concerning that he's relying only on this equaliser, this knockout power that he's got? Does that not worry a little bit, Frank?
I suppose in some ways it could do, but I look at the fight he had with Frazier Clark, the first fight. I thought he won the first fight, but it was a close fight, and what he learned from that in the second fight, he does learn. That's one thing about him. He's got a good brain. He picks up, and obviously the second fight, he worked on his game plan, and then it was an explosive ending and showed what he's all about. He did the same with David Adelaide. I mean, when you think these guys have got sterling amateur backgrounds, as did Huni, and he comes through it. It's it is what it is. You're not going to change it. He's not, he is not an exponent of the art of boxing. He's not a technician, yeah. He's the exponent of the art of hunting them down and knocking them over, and that's what he does. He's done that with, 18 out of 19 opponents. He's knocked them spark out. I mean, he's got that ability to do it. And there is that thing about Deontay Wilder with him. There is that, but Deontay was world champion for 6 years with that ability. And
you'll have that, won't you?
This division is on fire at the moment. There's so many exciting fights to be made, and he's an exciting fighter, and he's in the mix.
I think the comparison with Deontay Wilder is actually a good one, because he relied on his power, but I think Fabio doesn't completely rely on his power. He knows he's got it in there, but he can box a little bit too. But I think something that he's not getting enough credit for was the actual finishing shot. He doesn't have the amateur background, and he's still learning on the game as a pro, yeah. But the way he kind of threw, it was maybe the first straight right hand he threw as well, but he threw his head right off to the side, and it was like a perfect shot, which he's not really getting the credit for. So he's not just a puncher. There's a bit more to him than that.
And he hit him right there, wasn't it? On the, he's such a powerful puncher. But you're right what you say there, Carl, and I don't think he's definitely not a one-trick pony, that's for sure. But he was in with a guy who they'd done their homework. His trainer done their homework, and they came out and they had a game plan. And that game plan, they stuck to it, and it was working up until the time that he managed to finally let those shots go. I know when he lets that right hand go, and especially when he's fighting someone when who's vulnerable to a right hand, you know that he can take him out. I mean, he did the same thing, Justis, against Kevin Lerena, who caught him with a great shot, and he overcome that and come back. But I thought under the circumstances and at the stage of the fight and where he was, I think it's exceptional what he managed to do. Because a lot of guys would have lost heart. They would have seen that as a lost cause.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Frank. I think Justis Huni, his stock rose in defeat there because he was dominating those earlier rounds where just and had Fabio on that back foot, but he got taken out there, but his stock rose, didn't it?
Yeah, I agree with that. But he was well in front. I mean, he was well in front on the scorecards. There was no way is there any doubt about that. But he's what's that's his 12th pro fight. I know he's got a wealth of amateur experience, but he'd done extremely well. And then we'd certainly see him and bring him back again, wouldn't you, to fight one of the guys over here? He's a competitor.
So what are you going to do next with Fabio? What's next for him? Obviously, imminent fatherhood, but in the ring, what's next for him?
Well, he's out for a while. He's now the interim champion. He's the WBA interim champion. So, I've said it a few times, 19th of July, we've got the 4 belts on the line between Usyk and Daniel Dubois. That will be the catalyst then for the winner. Whoever wins that is going to have some obligations to defend or make their mandatory defences.
Fabio was on early with me earlier on the show earlier on, and he was sort of indicating that it's likely to be someone like Kubrat Pulev.
He's the WBA regular champion, right?
Yeah. Well, they may order that. I hope they do order that. Be another good fight, and and the way the fans come out, I don't know if we can, if we can, this day and age, because the pitches are much better than they were years ago. We might be able to slip that in September or something with the Ipswich game.
Frank, here's a question for you. Do you think, because he's very closely he's getting a shot at one of the top guys very, very soon. He's highly ranked with the WBA, and that will be the objective, to win a world title at some point. But there's a lot of guys underneath that level that are very, very good, and he'll be needing to fight while he's waiting on a shot. Do you have to match him really carefully now after what you've seen on Saturday night?
Yeah, I'll say I want to make obviously, I'm not going to tell lies. I want him to, the matches I make, I want him to win. But, at that level, sometimes it's very, very difficult because they're all pretty good fighters. So, my job is to make sure that we do sort something out as far as the fights are concerned that are the right fights for him. And we will do that. But he's at a stage now where obviously he wants to earn big money. He's earned the right to be there, and he wants the big purses. And you get big purses going in big fights.
Can I ask you about someone that was sat next to you or just a couple of seats away from you, young Moses Itauma on Saturday night? The rumour mill is spinning around, suggesting that it is going to be Moses Itauma versus Dillian Whyte, 2 fighters at different ends of their careers. Can you confirm or deny this in this conversation, Frank? I
can do neither. We are in a position now where we're talking about his fight. I noticed something was put out by Ring Magazine. And I think all will be revealed fairly soon. But Moses is at a stage now where where I feel that every fight he's had, we're increasing the quality of the opposition, and he's ready for the next big step up, and it has to be against a recognisable name.
So is this, let me make it a supposition that this is potentially going to happen, and you don't have to comment on it, but is it the kind of fight that you want to see Moses in now?
Yes. Yeah.
And if it were Dillian, what does it say about Dillian? Is it the sort of fight that he would really fancy?
Well, if the fight took place, then obviously he would fancy it.
Do you think it's the right fight for both of these guys at this stage of their careers, Frank? Because they're at the opposite ends of their careers, aren't they? But do you think it makes sense for both guys?
Look, Dillian's in the business. He obviously wants to pay those, but he's in he wants another shot at the title, and he wants to get himself into a position to do that. And for him, looking at all the fighters, all the organisations, you look at Moses. Moses is ranked #1 now by the WBO. So if he were to fight Moses, then that puts him in the #1 spot if he were to beat Moses.
Before I let you go, Frank, can I just ask you what the landscape looks like for Joseph Parker? Obviously, a lot of people ruminate on the unfortunate circumstances he seems to find himself in, which is not getting the opportunities that perhaps his recent form has deserved. What's coming up next for him, Frank? What are the opportunities that await him?
He's in a marvellous position. He'll fight in September. Well, I spoke with him I actually spoke with his manager yesterday, and he'll fight in September. We'll have him out in September. Had he had that fight with Daniel,
yep.
And I believe, let's assume that if he'd have lost that fight, he was fighting for the one belt. If Daniel comes through or Usyk comes through, whoever comes through on that fight on the 19th, as I said earlier, the WBO belt is the next mandatory. He then fights for 4 belts instead of 1.
So he gets the winner, does he, Frank? Is he in line to fight the winner of that fight?
The WBO have ordered that fight. So whatever happens after the 19th, the first mandatory is for the WBO title. So he is in a magnificent position.
So September, Parker, out next. And you're saying that will be for the WBO?
No, I'm saying he'll fight in September. It'd be too soon for these guys, the winner of that fight, to fight in September. But in the meantime, he won't want to be sitting.
Do we have any idea who that might be in September, Frank?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment.
We'll keep us posted.
We're looking at a few guys, but I want to get it done before I announce it.
So we've heard from Fabio's promoter. Let's hear from Fabio himself about his performance on Saturday night.
Obviously, I want to perform. I don't want to just be the guy that loses every round and then pulls it out of the hat every time. That's a bit costly for me, costly for my career, because there's some serious tough guys in this game, and it's not always going to work. So, look, I'm learning on the job. I know I'm 20-odd fights in now, and I've got an interim world title and everything else, but I am still very much learning on the job. I'm trying to figure things out for myself. So, yeah, look, we take that, a great win for what it is, and we go back to the drawing board and we pick it apart. Look, I never, like I said there, I don't profess to be one of the most best and skillful boxers in the world, but one thing I said in the build-up I know how to do is I know how to win fights. One way or the other, last round, 10 rounds, round 1, whichever one, I can find a way to win.
Fabio's very frank and honest and doesn't try and dress things up. When you watch that fight, and I had my views on it on Saturday night, I mean, at certain times I thought Fabio was very easy to hit, and I was surprised at times, given the fact that I thought he was very different in the Fraser Clark fight. I think it was easy to hit in the Fraser Clark fight, but notwithstanding that, I expected a little bit different from Fabio than I saw on Saturday evening. Are we still in the same situation, or are you in the situation where you believe that despite the shortcomings that Fabio might exhibit, and again, the honesty that he puts forward, that he can win a world title?
I think he's very honest and very accurate in where he's at right now, and I think he is an improving fighter, even at 30 years of age, with that lack of amateur pedigree, and he has been learning on the job, and we do see those improvements in every fight, and that proved a difficult night for him. But his main asset, to me, is his will to win and not to lose hope and not to lose heart for a fight. And that makes him a very dangerous guy, and I think that...
But that's great.
But Simon, what I'm saying is, he needs time still. He can't go and win a world title right now.
I understand that, but that's
in 2 or 3 fights, I think it'll be different.
But that's great, and I'm sure no one's doubting his will to win. But is it a fair observation for me to make that if Justis Huni hit a little bit harder, that Fabio might have found himself in a greater degree of difficulty than he did on Saturday night?
I think so. I really do think so. And I think Justis, all heavyweights can punch. They're big men, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they know what they're doing, but there is heavier punching heavyweights than Justis Huni, and I think Fabio would have been in a lot of trouble if he had been in with one of those guys. Just how often and how clean he was being hit. I think there was, after about round 7, and the prediction I made going into the fight was Fabio was going to be behind and then he's going to land a shot and win by KO. So I got it pretty spot on. But after about round 7, I couldn't see a way of him coming back. For me, he looked like he was feeling sorry for himself.
I'm with you, mate.
I thought that as well, yeah.
I thought he was feeling sorry for himself, and then he pulled that one out. But I mean, he done it, and he's still unbeaten, and his career continues.
Listen, it was one of those that you looked at him and you saw him getting disheartened as the rounds were going on. And I'm with you. After about round 7, when the fighter's walking back to the corner and his head's down low, looking at the floor, he's asking himself questions. That's what I say when I talk about him having a lot of character or showing a lot of character, because there were times there as well he was getting busted up to the body. The body shots were key for Huni in this one. But he just hung in there, man, and that is a quality that you need at that higher level. But what we found out on Saturday night was there's still a long way to go. You know, before he gets to that top echelon of fighters, he's going to.
What do you think Ben Davison added
They've got to
to
match
him?
him right.
What do you think that Ben Davison added to him? Because, I mean, Fabio spoke on another show earlier on today about that he'd already been told by his trainer that they've got reality in their mind that they weren't going to bank many rounds against Justis Huni and that ultimately they were going to have to do certain things to win this fight. What do you think Ben has added to him?
Well, see, I was thinking totally different to this one. Before the fight had gone, I said, listen, Fabio takes it there and takes it and puts it on him early, he could get him out of there early because I think that stylistically, that's why he should be.
Which is what he tried to do in the first round, didn't he?
Saying that Huni was going to bank rounds early, I thought was quite strange because I go tactically, I would have been in the other camp and saying, you need to go and pull it on this kid. Don't let him get into a rhythm, get inside and land those shots. Right hand is key. And I think that we would see that if you look through Justis Huni's career, you see that shot he does get caught.
Because I said to you after the fight, my first reaction after watching Justis Huni was he was very happy in defeat. He seemed to be quite happy about the defeat. And I thought to myself, that's a strange one. And the reasons why I make that point is because is it as much Justis Huni losing that fight as it was Fabio Wardley winning it?
Yeah, I think Justis Huni got a bit too complacent. I think it was too easy for him at a point in that fight, and it was, like I said, Fabio looked like he was starting to feel sorry for himself. Justis was starting to land a little bit more. He looked the fresher out of the two as well, and I think he just got a little bit too overeager. His feet squared up a bit, and Fabio's landed that great, which was a very good shot, by the way. The question you asked about Ben Davison, what does he bring to him?
Yeah.
You see the fighters with Ben Davison. I think he's a great coach, and Lee Wiley and Barry and the guys that really know what they're doing. They feint a lot, and they always try to trigger a reaction from the opponent. But because of Fabio's lack of amateur pedigree and I suppose lack of experience as a pro, because he's had 20 fights but he's only been a pro a number of years, there's nothing, once he does a feint and there is a reaction, it's like he has to think about something coming back or he has to think about what he does afterwards, you know what I mean? And that's just down to experience. But like you said, I still think he's an improving fighter.
Yeah, massive.
I do think they're the right coaches for him. I think I really rate Ben Davison very highly.
Despite all of this and some of the reservations that we are putting on how Fabio should be allowed to develop, do we yet still potentially see him in a world title fight in the next 12 months, given the opportunity to fight Kubrat Pulev, who's someone that he could imminently beat, couldn't he?
Pulev's the great. Pulev's the right route.
But he beats him. He beats Pulev.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that potentially gets him a world title then, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, WBA regular world title, but that sets him up. Pulev gives him rounds. He's tough, and he gives him rounds. But I'm saying 3 or 4 more fights, Cole, before he.
A couple before.
Boxes, yeah.
I mean, if he's looking at the top two at the minute are Daniel and Alexander Usyk, then he's still a few fights off these guys. But again, it's one of them. He's got the dynamite where he could land on either of those two and maybe do something as well. But Pulev is a good fight for him, but another couple after that. Yeah. I don't think Pulev gives him rounds, by the way, because I think his style. I think he blows Pulev away pretty early.
I want to go to the undercard, Carl, and one of the fights that I really enjoyed was Pierce O'Leary versus Liam Dillon. Your takeaway from that fight?
I thought Pierce looked good. I thought the scorecards were way too close. I give Dillon 1 round. No disrespect to the kid, he's extremely tough, but he was jumping up 2 divisions against a good fighter in Pierce O'Leary. Done okay, game competitive in most rounds, but the better fighter in the majority of the rounds was clearly Pierce. But the kid, Dillon, I mean, I've never seen someone. There was a visible reaction to body shots.
Yeah.
But I've never seen someone recover so quickly from it. He was hurt by about 20 of them. 3 seconds later, he's thrown back.
He's a tough kid,
extremely
but
tough.
I'm with you. Pierce O'Leary won that fight clearly. The scorecards were a joke, actually. I couldn't believe that. What was it, like 115, 112, 116, 112? Crazy. I think I give Dillon. And it was unfair, really, because I give Dillon maybe 1-2 rounds, and it was like doesn't really tell the story of the fight because Dillon was hanging in there, showing a lot of heart, a lot of balls.
He did.
But Pierce O'Leary's class, man. But is he ready for a Dalton Smith?
Well, that's
Adam
what I was going to
Azim?
ask, Carl. Where does he go next?
I don't know. I'm not sure. But look, he's going to be criticised because he didn't get rid of a super featherweight, jumping up 2 divisions. So people will criticise him for that. I may get a little bit of stick on social media, and it'll be a weapon that opponents use going forward. You couldn't get rid of a super featherweight, and it might be something that gets under his skin, but it could also be a blessing in disguise because people are starting to think, actually, you can't get rid of this kid. I'll fight you now.
Yeah.
And there may be more opportunities for him off the back of it.
Can I ask you what you both thought about Lewis Richardson's debut? Olympic bronze medalist, going in against Dimitri Protkones. Points victory. slick operator. I felt he didn't really sit down on his punches, and it was a lot more style than substance. But more importantly, what did you two think?
Exactly that. I think that, listen, when you get an amateur boxer that's sort of like well-schooled as he is, and, you know, I think that's how he was so successful as an amateur. That transition over, sometimes you've got to make those adjustments. I mean, Richie Woodall's a great example of a guy that can do that and, you know, keep that sort of style and win fights. But he needs to sit down on his shots a little bit more. But when he sits down on his shots, obviously he's taking more of a gamble because he's sitting in the pocket a little bit more, which doesn't suit his style because he's not a big puncher. He's all about speed,
and
movement,
it's unreasonable perhaps to
movement.
expect that on his debut.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It takes time to adjust, right, Cole?
Yeah, of course. It will take time. And there was, like, you could clearly see, if you didn't know who Lewis Richardson was, you could see that he was a top-level amateur.
Confident lad, yeah.
But he does have to improve going forward and start to fight as a pro, plant his feet a little bit more. There was times, I think his engine was really good.
Yep.
First 6-rounder he's done, and he done it at a breeze, and the work rate was very, very high. But just occasions when he got the guy on the ropes, he's putting 6 shots together when it could be 2 or 3 big ones. Right. But these are things he'll develop, and it just takes a little bit of time.
Are you optimistic for him?
Yeah, I like the kid.
Yeah.
He speaks well, he can fight.
He does, yeah.
Nice guy as well. I think they'll have to fast track him, but be careful as well as they're doing that. But he does need to develop slightly more of a professional style. Yeah,
that's where I think that, like, you know, when you're saying fast track him, it all depends how quick he can make that transition, but definitely one to watch.
So as much as Frank Warren wanted to be coy like a carp on Moses Itauma versus Dillian Whyte, if it is announced, which I suspect it might be, what's your take on this, boys?
I think that announcement is imminent. I think we could see that August 16 out in Saudi Arabia. I think they're the rumours that are circulating anyway, and I think they're quite close to the truth. I think this is brilliant. This is genius matchmaking for Moses Itauma because Dillian Whyte is at that stage of his career that he's not the fighter he once was. He's got a great name, and I think, like, listen, Dillian's going to get a great payday for it, and it's a good opportunity for him to put himself back up in the mix. So it's great matchmaking on his side. But for me, Moses Itauma, I think that his style, he wins that fight comfortably.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, like, you're talking about the matchmaking. I think it is because a previous world champion, highly ranked guy, was he a world champion?
No, he wasn't. He was interim. WBC interim.
A previously highly ranked guy who's fought some of the top names around. I think it could be a good win on Moses' CV. I do think the style that Dillian has will suit Moses as well, because Moses is very, very neat, very technically gifted, good step backs and counters really well, and Dillian Whyte throws a lot of wide shots.
Why do you think Dillian's taken it? Is it just, I mean, it can't be a tacit acceptance from him of, you know, handing over the baton to the next generation, can it?
I think he'd be taking it for the sole reason that he can see that there's a crop of guys beneath the top 2 in the division, all vying for that chance to get a shot at the title. Dillian is outside that top crew at the minute, and I imagine it's a big payday for him. You're going to have that, and that's a problem Frank's going to have, to get Moses Itauma opponents until he gets ready to fight for the world title. He's going to have to pay them well.
It's going to be a massive payday, and also for Dillian Whyte, the opportunity to become WBO #1 and put his name back in the mix, and that's the carrot that's being dangled, I believe. That you go, where else does he go? Inactivity's been a big part of his career recently,
for a variety of
and
reasons.
you go, yeah, absolutely. So I think it's perfect matchmaking for both guys, really. What do you think?
I think it's good night, Mr. Whyte.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think that the matchmaking's great for him?
Not for Dillian, I don't know. I think it's great for Moses because ultimately he gets a decent name like Dillian Whyte on his resume, which isn't the Dillian Whyte that was fighting 2 or 3 years ago. If he blasts him out, which I think he will, then Moses, the mythology around Moses just gets bigger and wider and more bankable.
There'll be a bit of hype around the fight as well, which will raise Moses' profile too.
Yeah.
Another question for you then. So if you say it's not good matchmaking for Dillian Whyte, where would you put Dillian Whyte then? That's what I'm saying. Like, what opportunity is going to come from?
Well, the last time I opened my mouth about fucking Dillian Whyte, I put him in with Fabio Wardley and got smacked around everybody for being a bit of a tit. So I'm not even going to answer that question. Thanks very much.
Brilliant.
How do you see it in the event that this fight is made, which we all think it will be? I do think it will be Moses Itauma. I do think that he will go through Dillian, and I think he'll go through him compellingly. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm with you.
You think the same?
I just think that timing is key in boxing. Dillian Whyte's been a great ambassador for the sport. I don't think he's the fighter he once was, and I think that Moses Itauma is something special, and I think he wins quite comfortably.
Yeah, I agree with you, Spencer, and I think it could be early as well. I think he's a very neat, tidy boxer. Moses clearly punches hard, fastest hands in the heavyweight division. I think. I think it could be an early night.
And if it goes the way we all think it will, is this the end for Dillian? And where does it catapult Moses to?
I think, well, for Dillian, yeah, you go, where do you go from there? You know, he's boxed at that highest level. He's boxed for the WBC World Heavyweight title against, you know, long-awaited world title shot against Tyson Fury. You go, so where do you go from there when you're losing to the kid that's on his way up? You know, the young prospect. So it's down to Dillian Whyte and what he decides to do. But you just think that once you've worked there, where does the motivation come from?
Well,
Carl?
I have no idea. Unless he's still, you know, receiving decent purses, which I don't know if he would if he lost to Moses afterwards. But I would say it'd probably be the end of the road for Dillian. And there's, you know, he had a good career. Again, another guy with not a lot of amateur experience, so he done quite well. And Moses puts himself close to that bracket of just beneath the top two.
Fascinating. We'll look forward to that fight. So we're joined in the studio by Callum Simpson, fresh from winning the European Super Middleweight title at Okolie, the home ground of your favourite football team. How was that for you, mate?
Unreal, absolutely amazing. Amazing, yeah, like I said, we did it last year for the British Commonwealth against that Chile. There were 7,000 there, and then this year come back for the European title, bigger and better, and what a fight it was and what an atmosphere.
It really was a tough fight, wasn't it? Zerko, I know he was unbeaten going into that one. Caught you early, and that is the worst time to get caught. When you're cold, you got caught. I mean, you recovered really well, but that first, 15 seconds or so, you walked straight onto one.
I think it was 8 seconds.
8 seconds?
8 seconds, yeah. That's not...
Yeah.
But 8 seconds.
What, was that a case of like, look, you're fighting in front of your home fans, they love you up there as well. Was that, did you just switch off? Was it complacency? What happened there?
And honestly, I don't know what it was, because I've been caught by like big shots before. Like I sparred Batavia, I've been caught by much bigger punches, much heavier shots. I'm not too sure, to be fair, even with both knockdowns, but it's like, even when I watch it back, like after even on the way down, it's like I know what's happening. It's weird, yeah. But then as soon as I got straight back up, and like my legs were fine, my head were fine, absolutely. So I looked at my corner, I was like, yeah, I'm sound, and then just got. But it's weird because I didn't even I wasn't panicking. I was just like, right, just get back to it, just stay focused.
And then you got caught again in the third round, wasn't it? Third round.
Yeah.
The third round was a heavier shot as well. Would you think like it was complacency on your part, or was it like you was over trying? Because I was looking at that, and early on in the fight there, it seemed like it was like you was forcing yourself maybe a little bit too much.
I think that's something I'm guilty of quite a bit. I just like fighting, I like going forward, but obviously as I'm maturing a bit more, like I did in come to like the fifth, sixth round, I started to box a bit more, keep the range, and after them 2 knockdowns, it was just about getting the rounds under the belt and just keeping focused to just win the rounds. Because obviously, if them 2 were 10-8 rounds, even though other than the 2 knockdowns, like I was still I was winning the rounds. Yeah, I feel like I was winning pretty much every round. But obviously, you've got to win the 4 rounds back to then just to get level again. So 6 rounds in, it's like right, we're level. If the judges are doing what I think we do, so it was just a case of keep getting the round, keep picking the rounds up, and just keep focused and just keep winning.
Did you feel, Callum, additional pressure going into an environment? I mean, how many were there? 15, 20,000?
I believe 15,000, yeah.
Right, and I think the previous one was about 7,000, wasn't there?
That's right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you go into these environments, a bit like Fabio went into Portman Road, which is the going into an environment where the football club that you support. Do you feel additional pressure? Do you feel additionally, not so much anxious, but focused on you've got to put on a performance here, given the opportunity that's in front of you?
No, not at all. For me, it was just about winning. The crowd, the more crowd that being there, the atmosphere there. I just, like I said earlier, I just enjoyed it. I didn't feel any kind of anxiety to perform or to try and get a knockout or just to do anything amazing. It was just a case of just win. As long as I were gonna get my hand raised, I wouldn't bother how I won. Just about winning.
Does it tell you something about yourself that you can survive a couple of knockdowns in a fight and come back and knock your opponent back down 3 times in the 10th round to win the fight? Yeah,
definitely. I've always known myself that I've got like a strong character and a strong will to win. But it's all right saying that, and I can say, if I forget that down, I'll be able to carry on fighting, I'll be able to do this, and I'll be able to dig deep. But you don't know until you test it, until you know.
There was another. So I'd seen you recently. I met you. I think it was Eubank Ben.
Yeah,
fight week.
yeah.
and you're massive.
Yeah,
I'm surprised at how big you were.
Yeah.
I had a fight where I got dropped twice in the first round.
Right.
And for me, it was down to weight. I wasn't hurt that much, and kind of similar to what you're saying, I was aware of everything as soon as I hit the canvas. I was straight back up. Is there any issues with the way super middleweight getting hard for you, or are you okay?
No, there's no issues making the weight. No issue.
You would say that anyway.
Well, yeah, either or. But no, there's no issues making the weight. But like I said, I'm knocked down. Not sure what they were, but like I said, I've been caught in much bigger shots. But yeah, I'd obviously got knocked down twice, but got back up and just I know that I had to get the rounds on my belt, keep winning the rounds, and just keep digging deep and just keep pushing on. Yeah.
Well, it now lends itself to the question: what next for you? I know that we've spoken previously, and you mentioned Ben Whittaker in that conversation.
Yeah.
Is that something that you are seriously thinking about at light heavyweight?
That's definitely a fight that I'd want. I spoke to a boxer, Ben. I've told him many times that I want that fight, but I don't think they've got any interest in it.
Why, Callum? Why do you want that fight?
But first, I just kind of said his name just because he was popular, and I thought, a bit of clout, whatever. And I thought, that'd be a good fight to build. Not even for now, but in the future, because obviously I want to do well at super middleweight first, and then step up. So I thought in the future, make for a good fight. But more recently, I don't really like him, to be honest. More recently, I don't really like him, what he's about, his character.
Why?
A few things that. Well, one of the main thing is we was at the Eubank Ben fight, and obviously I've done a few comms on his fights before, and obviously I've just been very honest with what I see, how I see it, not trying to. But I think that some of the other commentators might be trying to bias towards Ben because they're working for Sky, etc. Whereas I've just said what I've said, and I've had his dad atting me in comments, his friends atting me in comments, tagging my fiancée in comments, saying that she's a Ben Whittaker fan. If she ever wants to join the Whittaker team, let him know.
Right.
Yeah, tagging her. Yeah, just tagging my girl, tagging my fiancée in stuff. And then at the Eubank fight, we're walking back to that. After the fight had done, we're walking back to get back inside, and security were escorting Ben and his dad and I think his girlfriend and one of his mates. And then we went. And the security were like, "Oh, come with us." So we kind of joined them, and Ben were like. Who told these two they can come? Who told these two they can get escorted? And then obviously Daniela is my girlfriend, fiancée. She ran and said, security said to come. And he told her to shut up twice. Told her to shut up.
Oh, personal then,
yeah,
is it?
told her to shut up a few times. So I've turned around and said who are you talking to? And the security is got in between. And he was saying, what did he say now? He said, he said something about you. He said I'll punch you up and take your girl. While his girlfriend was there next to him, and his girlfriend hit him, what are you doing? And for me, it's just just show someone's. So it's just what are you doing?
And this all stems from you making observations about the fights he doesn't like.
And it's just, and again, just from that and just his character, and I feel like he just.
Well, maybe you'll get your chance to put that right.
Yeah, I think I will do.
But if that's not going to happen imminently, which is probably unlikely, as you've already said.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So who have you got your eyes on at super middleweights?
I love the Hamza Shiraz fight. That's the fight that I love.
You want that, do you?
Yeah, that's the fight that I'd want, definitely. He's moved up from middleweight, super middle, and that's the fight. Domestic that makes sense as well, because I think domestic there's no other names, there's no big names, there's no big fights there. For me, that would be the only one.
Why are you talking about domestically? Obviously you've got plenty of super middleweights out there. You've got Caleb Plant, you've got a variety of different ones. You've got Terence Crawford, you've got Canelo Alvarez. I know that I'm shooting for the stars.
Yeah, of course,
I'm surprised that you're talking about Hamza Shiraz.
Yeah, because I wanted to win the British outright. That's something I want to do. Defend for Hamza Shiraz, it's British defence, European defence, and then I want to obviously, like I said, I want to step up in levels, and I feel that is another level up from Zucker. I don't think Hamza Shiraz is world level. Maybe he is.
Do you think he beats Berlanga next?
To be honest, I've never actually watched Berlanga fight, so I don't.
But what I'm saying is
know.
that would then, if he comes through that fight, then that's obviously the fight that you're chasing.
100%.
Shiraz,
yeah, definitely,
he's a big draw.
Definitely, but even if he was to lose against Berlanga, that'd still be for me a big fight. But again, I want to keep stepping up. I'd love to defend the European.
Well, let's move on to someone who's out on the weekend who is at the elite level, which is Jaya Pataya. Fought the Italian, you want to try and pronounce his name? Claudio Squia.
That'll do.
That'll do.
Yeah.
Impressive?
Yeah, very impressive. Listen, it was the manner...
Impressive because Jai was impressive and the opponent was worthy of him, or just impressive because he got the job done in the way you'd expect him to do it?
The manner he went about getting the job done. Right. You know, he showed patience, he was setting traps, and the way that he finished the job was quite incredible. You know, the uppercut was especially effective against a smaller fighter, but the finish as well, that hook, when he actually said when he landed that hook, he heard his opponent's jaw break. He said, I actually heard it break when he landed it. Very heavy-handed. I think this guy cleans up the cruiserweight division, moves up, and has a great shot at cleaning up the heavyweight division as well.
Do you see it that way?
I love him. I think... I mean, I do like Zurdo Ramirez. I think he's a really good fighter as well, and that's a fight that I would like to see.
Were you surprised at Ramirez? Because when Chris Billiams-Smith picked Zurdo Ramirez, it's because they thought that was the best opportunity, didn't they?
And yeah, he was outclassed. Big Chris in that fight. Zurdo was very, very good, but I imagine that's a fight Turki Alalshikh would like to happen. I know it's kind of been reports that Opetaia and Zurdo aren't going to fight, but for me, if you want to have one kind of champion in each division, which Turki Alalshikh has openly said he wants to have the recognised champion, you have to make that fight. I would have Opetaia as a favourite, but it's a really hard fight.
Yeah, Opetaia's shown his appetite for that fight because he wants to become undisputed. Before moving up, he said he'll move up straight away as soon as he wins that undisputed, but that's the fight that he's taking.
What do you think of him, Callum?
Opetaia, I watched him fight Massi in Saudi, and I felt very bad for him. Obviously, I don't know Massi personally. I know how tough he is, how strong he is, and just seeing what he did to him, he just shows what levels he's at. But like I said, I think he's going to clear up at cruiserweight and step up to heavyweight. I think I don't know if he'll clear up at heavyweight, but I think he can do very, very well.
Are we seeing? I mean, we give this massive accolade to Jai Opetaia, and I think we should, and that's right to do so. And when you meet him, he's a very intense guy, and there's that 10-yard death stare. But some of the opposition that we saw him, he didn't have it all his own way against Marius Briedis, did he?
No, he didn't.
And he hasn't been pushed in some of the fights the way that ultimately one would have hoped him to be pushed in, some of the levels that he's had to fight at, with due respect to the opponents he's had.
I think the two fights with
Marius... What I'm saying is he as good as we really think he is? Because we've not seen him in with the real tests.
Well, I think the two fights he had with Marius Briedis told us that, he's not just an on-top fighter. He can take it as well, because he had to come through some times there as well. He went to some dark places, and I think that sort of develops you and improves you for when you move on to bigger and better things. But I think that's all part of the apprenticeship. But I think that he's the complete fighter for sure. I really do. I think that, he's done it the right way. He's gone around, he's trying to clean up that division before moving up to the heavyweights. And the new crop of heavyweights that are coming through are not as big as the last crop, like Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury. So you put him in there.
But it lends the question, doesn't it? Can you see him, Carl, stepping into the heavyweight division and making a dent in it?
I think so. And we've seen he's a similar enough sort of style to Usyk in terms he's fleet enough footed, but not quite as good as Usyk. But he carries more dynamite than Usyk, and he can punch harder. And I think the point you were making about maybe not seeing him with all the top level guys at the cruiserweight division, I would say that's not for want to try. And I imagine he's the type of person that would fight anybody.
But it doesn't feel like it's a great cruiserweight division, is my point.
No, not any. I agree with that. I agree with that.
And that's why I'm sort of picking at it, not trying to be controversial or being arsehole clever. I'm trying to pick at it because we've built Jai up to be this absolute monster. And then you look at some of the opponents. Jordan Thompson was a level that was way beneath him. And of course, everyone was, wow, look at him there, looks so impressive. Yeah. And, Jack Massey, as honest as Jack was, there was levels in that particular fight, wasn't there?
I just think that the toughness is in his DNA. I think that, he's that character. I think he's, do you know what I mean? That little bit that you need when you take out all the technical stuff and it becomes a little bit of a psychological battle, I think he's got it, and that's what that's what champions are made of, and that's why I think that he's a problem for even when he moves up to the heavyweights, because I think he can come through those tough times. He's not one of those fighters. He's not just an on-top fighter. I think that he's more than that. He's got a great boxing IQ, but he's got that toughness.
He's plenty of bottle.
Would you say that he needs to fight to kind of show how good he is, or would you say whether it cruiser or, like I say, the cruiserweight doesn't have the box that we're...
Well, I suppose the questions will be answered for all of us, Callum, insofar as anyone has any questions, and it's just maybe just me, is when he fights Zurdo Ramirez, because Ramirez has come out from the pack as the other side of the equation. I don't see him, fighting Badu Jack as a telling outcome. I see Zurdo Ramirez as being the outcome. And if he does that convincingly, then I'm already believing he's a wonderful fighter. I'm already believing he's an elite level fighter. I'm just saying that when we look at him through the prism of how great he is, I also think you've got to measure greatness against the opponents.
Yeah.
I think he beats Ramirez comfortably.
So do I.
I think he does a number on him.
So
Yeah,
do I.
Really?
So do
Yeah, I do. I just think that Ramirez
I
is
think
one of
he
those
beats him,
guys. Ramirez is like he gets into a rhythm. He's difficult to beat because he's so big. But you know, his punches are a little bit slow. Whereas Opetaya is very explosive and dynamic. And I think he'd beat Ramirez comfortably. I think that he'd catch Ramirez and.
I'd
Ramirez
fancy him in
stay
that
put.
fight, but I wouldn't say comfortably. I think Cerdo's a very good fighter.
Well, we'll see. Giving you an opportunity for a shameless plug of After the Lights Out with talkSPORT.
Yeah.
What's that about, Carl? Tell us about that.
I just listened to it yesterday. I done a chat with
Leon McKenzie.
Leon McKenzie.
I heard it, yeah.
And Steve Harmison.
Very good.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. The boys were easy to talk to. Just a bit of my life after boxing, and that was it.
Was it as good as up front that you did with me?
Nearly as good
Nearly
as
as
that.
good.
Yeah.
In some sad news, we've lost a couple of fighters this weekend. One British great in James Cook, and Mike McCallum, the original body snatcher.
Yeah.
I think you had a personal relationship with James.
Yeah, with
Cook,
James. Yeah, I went back a long way with James. I think we all did. Like, he was one of those figures that turned up at every boxing show. You know, not a bad bone in that guy's body. He was a beautiful human being. He ran the Pedro Community Centre, which took the kids of Hackney off the streets, and he sort of focused them. It was not all about just boxing, but giving them that discipline, that direction. He was just a good man. Got an MBE for that. I mean, I'd done a training series way back in 2002, I think, when I was working with Sky. And we'd done 10 of the top trainers around the country, and we went to see Brendan Ingle, Howard Rainey, all the trainers that were around at the time, Jim McDonnell, and he was one of them, James Cook. I remember going into the gym, the Old Kent Road, where I used to train actually down there with Duke McKenzie and all the others. And he said, look, Spence part of the training program down here, because he was training the guys like Richard Williams, remember Richard Williams, good fighter. All these guys, Ted Bammy. He said, we have to play reggae music. We put the reggae music on. You can't train without the reggae music, and you've got to move to the music, get that rhythm. And that's what it was all about. It's just a really good soul, And yeah, such a shame. I think
much missed.
Yeah, very.
And Mike
very
McCallum,
much so.
a top fighter, wasn't he?
Yeah, an amazing fighter.
Your weight class, Callum, wouldn't he be?
Yes, he would have been. He would have been. Yeah.
He was a three-weight world champion, I think. as well.
Three-weight world champ.
What a fighter! And just people won't know this, but obviously we know what he done in the professionals. He beat a friend of mine, guy from our amateur club, in the final of the Commonwealth Games. I think 78. A guy called Kenny Beattie, who was a very good fighter in himself. Never turned pro, but McCallum beat him in a close one. And it was a sad week for boxing.
It was
wasn't it?
the first Jamaican ever to win a world title, Mike McCallum.
Original body snatcher, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he beat Michael Watson back in the day. Michael Watson boxed him for the WBA world middleweight title, I believe it was.
Does boxing remember its greats well enough, do you think? Does it pay enough respect to the people when they pass?
I think so. I think that, you know, boxing is that close-knit community. When, you know, someone passes, I mean, we got the 10 bells for both guys actually at Ipswich, didn't we? And I'm sure they did. For down there in Barnsley as well.
Georgina, I believe.
That's right. Yeah. So, you know, I think boxing does pay its respects. I think that, you know, it is one of those close-knit communities.
Long remembered and much missed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, that's it for episode 124 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan Spencer. Thank you to Carl, thank you for Callum, and we'll see you guys next time we're out, which will be next week.